The Boomer Expo is coming. It's not too soon to make plans to attend the one and only 13th Boomer Expo. Save the date, Tuesday, January 20th, 2015, held at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel Casino in Hollywood. At each Boomer Expo, veterans are our special guests, with 4 lucky vets winning $250 in cash. Enter our 50 drawings to win cash and fabulous products. It's a big fun day and it's free. Call 561-735-6525 for information about exhibiting or attending. Call 561-735-6525 or go to www.boomerexpofl.com. That's www.boomerexpofl.com. Okay, so now have we saved the best for last? Maybe. Linda Sauget. Linda, the lady who writes these wonderful, wonderful columns for us. And I don't know if you sleep at night or what you do to dream up these great shows. In fact, wait, I do have to tell you, I didn't bring it with me. The Palm Beach Medical Society does a newsletter. And the newsletter on the front page was your story about of course, the one that talks about why would I want to save one starfish.
Oh,
the whole thing was on starfish and why one thing makes a difference, because that's what the doctors, I guess, needed. And I meant to bring that. I'm going to have to get that to you, because that was a very, I know you get these from people. It's not that you make them up, but you find them. And how do you find these great stories?
Anytime you find one, send it to me, because that's what inspires me to get an idea and write the column. And that's one of my favorite stories, the story about the starfish.
So tell people, if they didn't read it, why don't you just share it?
It's the story about a little boy who goes to the beach every day and tries to put the starfish that have washed up on shore back into the ocean. And when the tide goes out, thousands of starfish are washed up onto the beach. And there's miles of beach, and this little boy just takes one starfish at a time and throws it back into the ocean. And this old man was observing him and said, why do you do that? What difference can you possibly make? There are thousands of starfish and miles of beach. And the little boy bends down and he picks up a starfish and he throws it into the ocean. And he says to the man, I made a difference to that one.
Yeah.
And that's the moral of the story, is you do what you can. You can't save the whole world, but you can save one starfish. It makes a difference to that. So the importance of the individual, what you can do. So that's one of my favorite stories.
And I think it's true, because I think we're all very frustrated by a lot of life's travails and things that are happening. And it's like, what are we going to do about all this? Well, if you just find a few people or a few things that you can do something about, that may be all you can do.
But that's so much.
Right.
That's the point of that story.
And Linda, now at the holiday time, and Dr. Mencia, we were talking about it, depression, anxiety really does come into play. And you never know, by just talking to one person, what you may have saved that person from. Unfortunately, there are people who become suicidal. And maybe if you, and funny, that just brought up years ago, I heard about, I know, it was some man who was a doctor reminded someone else that I was so depressed when I must have been very young, and I was walking by, and you said good morning to me. I don't think it came from your column, but it was somewhere. And just by someone being kind and saying that changed me from thinking about taking my own life, which I was going to do, and then that person eventually became a physician. So we never think about good morning or how are you, just to one person, how that can make the difference.
You never know what people are carrying around. You might think someone is rude, or you might think somebody is arrogant because they don't acknowledge you, but you never know what's going on in their life, that they may be distracted. And sometimes, you're right, just a friendly hello. You never know what a kind word or what a nice deed doing for someone can do for someone.
Yeah, I just read something else. For years, when people would be on the streets, with their hand out wanting something, I would give them a little bit of this or a little bit of that. I forget who just said, I know, the executive director of Faith Farm, he gets, instead of giving money out, he goes to McDonald's and they get $5 gift cards or $20 gift cards and they give to someone. That way they know that they can't spend it on something that they shouldn't have. And so for a long time, I always felt badly, and I would give a little something until the day I was at a gas station and some man came up to me, he was hungry, and I had a banana in my car. And I gave it to him, and he threw it back at me and said, I don't want that. And it really made me, and I shouldn't have allowed it to do it. And I said, okay, well, maybe that's really, I shouldn't be doing that anymore. But just recently someone said about giving somebody $1, giving something, and no matter what they spend it on, it's not, don't worry that you think they think you're a fool. Just do it because it's of your heart and because maybe it's doing something good.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. You do something not because of who they are, but because of who you are.
Right, because you want to do that because hopefully it would really benefit. In fact, there was someone I knew her very well, and she told me that her son used to complain to her, why do you work like you do? You work so hard when I can go out and panhandle on the street and make so much more than you. And all these things you hear and you say, well, I'm not going to then give people money anymore. But maybe that's just a few. Maybe overall it's better to...
I don't think, there are people who abuse the system, and you can't eliminate the system just because there are a few bad apples. It's kind of funny. On CNN this morning, there was a feature I was listening to while I was getting ready, and a filmmaker gave $100 to a homeless man.
Wow.
And then secretly filmed him to see what he was going to do with the $100.
Oh, my goodness, tell us.
This was just on the news this morning.
Yeah.
Well, he went right to a liquor store, and he came out with 2 huge bags, went to a park, and the 2 bags were filled with food, no liquor, and he shared it with all of the other homeless people
now that's
in
fantastic.
the park. And then the newsman interviewed him because here's a man who had nothing, and he went with his good fortune and bought food for other homeless people living in the park.
Now
that's
you're
paying
right.
it
Yes,
forward. That's the goodness. People are good. People are good at heart. There's no question.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story.
And this man didn't know he was being filmed. He had no idea. But that's what he did with his gift of $100 to a homeless person. That's like $100,000.
Right, but of course he was doing it thinking he was going to do this as something that he was going to videotape.
Right.
So it wasn't that he was just doing it because he was a nice man.
No, he was going to film this story.
Boy, it changed his mind, didn't it?
It did. And, of course, the filmmaker said, the first thing I thought when I saw you go into the liquor store is, well, he's going to go buy liquor with my $100. And he didn't buy any liquor. He bought food and then shared it. So, I think make a difference.
Right. Over the holidays, I've been hearing a lot of stories like that, and I did hear about what it's like for especially women who are homeless to be with their children in these homeless centers, and how important it is to go and volunteer and serve the food and help these people, because we never know when that might happen to us or someone whom we love.
And you just never know. It's a lesson for being grateful for whatever you have, because no matter what's going on in your life, there's someone who is suffering. There's someone who has it harder. And a lot of times the things that we think are big problems, really, if you think about it, they're not. A lot of times they're just little conflicts that we have, or unhappiness that we have for whatever reason, because we didn't eat well or we didn't sleep well. But is it really, when you compare yourself to some other people who are homeless, who really have difficulty in their life?
And wasn't it in one of your articles, or the one you just sent? I don't know. I read them all. Didn't you talk about choices in one of the articles, or was that something else I read? It's really up to you. You have a choice, and your head can get something in it, and it starts to really revolve, and you start to get, I'm really going to do this, and that person was so mean and so bad. But it's a choice of saying, okay, it's over. I'm not even going to think about it anymore. That's your choice.
Yeah, it is. I've written several columns with that theme, actually, because we are in control of our lives. We don't think about it. So many times we think that it's, all the circumstances in our lives and things that are happening to us, but we always have the choice of how we react. And I think, I just recently saw something that Wayne Dyer said, which is how you act is your path or your karma, and how I react is mine. I have the choice. So that's my path. So, yeah, we do have a choice. We need to exercise that and remember that.
The one thing, though, then we can sit here and talk, but because both of us do not have chemical imbalances. It's obvious we don't. But we do know people who do. Mm-hmm. And over the holiday, I had somebody with a chemical imbalance go through all this stuff. And, and it's not my business to ask her, are you on medication, or is your medication checked, or all? But I'm just going to say this for anyone listening: if you're if you're on medication for depression or for, any disease of the mind or something that you have, please go to the doctor and get it checked all the time, mm-hmm. because that's such a dangerous thing. You're playing with your mind. But she sat there at a party I was there, and it's terrible. I mean, she was in such pain about, I don't think I'm worth in this life anymore. And she just said, I'm just going to be quiet. I don't understand anything anymore. You could see she was really, and she wasn't drunk, nothing like that. It was just her brain was not functioning.
Yeah, now that's sad, and that is not the case for most people.
Right, but people have to keep going to the doctor and getting those medications mm-hmm. changed or upgraded. Because I've had some friends lately who've really, some decided to get off their medication, and it really proved havoc in their life. And some people, they didn't check with the doctor before they did what they were supposed to do. They took too much. They didn't take enough. And it's very serious medication.
Yeah, that is, and that really has to be monitored and controlled. Definitely.
So, we can sit here and say we make choices, and we do that because at the moment our brains are functioning.
Right.
It's just our psyche we have to take care of, right?
You have to remember that there are some people not as fortunate, but there is help for them, too. But like you say, they've got to have their medications monitored and make sure they're on the right dose and that they're taking it to keep their hormone levels stable. That's a complex problem.
My guest is Linda Sauget. That's Sauget. She wrote a wonderful book called "Think You Think It."
If you think it.
And she writes a column for us in Boomer Times. I know I just read what's coming up in January, but I can't. Let's see. I'm trying to remember what one it was. What was the title? Do you remember?
I don't remember the title, but it was about two monks.
Oh, yeah, the two monks. Oh, right.
And this is a good lesson.
It's the same thing.
It's a good lesson. Two monks who they're walking through, hiking through the woods, and they come to crossing a river, and they have to wade across it to get to the other side. And there's a woman on the bank of the river, and she asks the monks, can you help me cross this river? And so one of the monks picks her up and carries her as they wade across, carries her across the river, then puts her down, and they go about their business. And the second monk is very quiet, very disturbed and quiet for quite a long time. And then he says to the other monk, how could you have picked up that woman? You know we've taken vows, and we cannot have contact with women. And the first monk said, I put that woman down on the riverbank, and I left her there hours ago. You are still carrying that woman around. So it's the idea
I love that.
Let it go. What do you carry around? How many of your problems are created just because you keep thinking about them? And it's the whole idea of let it be, let it go. So that was the story.
Yeah, it was, and it was very true. And that just happened to me with something, as a matter of fact. And your brain can start saying, "Oh, well, they shouldn't have done that," and what was this? And I said, "Stop, just let it go. It's not important, But that happens with we're just human beings. That's the problem, right?
I practice this stuff all the time. It is something that has to be practiced because something will start bothering me, and then I'll catch myself and I'll say, "Hold on a second. Is it important? Let it go. Accept it. All of the things that I study and teach, I practice. I have to practice because things bother me too, and then I'll have to practice my own training and my own teaching."
If you just sit and watch little children, they don't hold grudges. They just play with their things, and they're smiling and happy unless people are mistreating them. And we were just having this conversation with Dr. Mencia and Harry Getzoff about older adults, and it seems that a lot of times as people age, they're more relaxed about things. Maybe because they've already been there, they've done that. It doesn't matter if the sun doesn't come out today or if it's rainy, right?
I think that's true. When you're younger, I think a lot of times you don't have the same kind of clarity because I don't know what it is, but it just seems like as I've gotten older, I've just noticed that I'm just calmer, more proportion as to what's really important, and allowing people to be more who they are and not trying to change people. And I think these are things that you do learn, I think, as you get older.
Yeah, it's the value system that you keep picking up and you just put it to use because there are serious things and there are not so serious. And that's what I think we're saying, that we can make, what is it that people would say, making mountains out of molehills.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good one for you. Make mountains out of molehills. And that really is such it's so foolish because you do affect a lot of people. And that's the other thing that, the one thing that I have said about Dr. Mencia, which is so true, when you go to his office, no matter how bad you feel physically, he makes you feel good mentally because he treats you, even if he only sees you for 5 minutes. He has all his attention on you, and you feel like he really cares. There's someone that really cares, and he's smart enough to make sure that what you've come there for is taken care of.
That's a gift. That is truly a gift. A gifted physician like that.
Yeah.
Not just treat, to be able to treat the whole person, to understand the physical things that you're going through, but also how important to be connected with you on a personal level is. And he's got that gift.
They've talked about medicine, the technology of medicine now, and I forget it's called telemedicine, that you can sit in your house and someone's going to take care of you that way. And don't you think you're going to lose that personal touch somehow, Linda?
I think you do lose the personal touch with that, but I think maybe the place for that is, I don't know where the place for that is. When you're stable and you're just having something monitored, like your blood pressure or your heart rate, and it's maybe an ongoing treatment that can be done, like pacemakers are checked that way. You dial into the phone and they can check on how the pacemaker is doing. But I don't think there's any substitute for face-to-face communication with
Harry was talking about the day of the doctor with his little black bag coming to your house, right?
Those days are gone, I think.
Well, but now
there are some.
Yeah, but we were talking about Dr. Mencia, who had this home health nurse come. Every day for 3 days. Now she had her little computer and all her things, but she, in essence, was a live body who was checking on things and then reporting back to Dr. Mencia if there was anything that she was concerned about.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I said, well, I'm going to take him this morning when she was going to come in today. And I said, no, you don't have to, but I'm going to take him to Dr. Mencia. She said, it's Saturday. I'm sure he's not open. I said, oh, no. Dr. Mencia is open on Saturdays. And, of course, after she, shut her mouth because she was in such, awe, I said, and I think it's maybe a good thing for him to now check him, even though you've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 days. Let's just go to the guru. And so that's what we're going to do. But it was a very personalized situation over the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to home health nurses. If you think about it, they go into all different kinds of settings and homes, and typically when people are sick, they're not at their best and they aren't feeling great. They're not always charming.
And their spouse is sitting there watching, contradicting everything that the patient's saying.
But they really are caregivers in the true sense.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, no. It's been an unusual experience because I never had that happen where it was my own husband. That I was watching someone ask him all these questions, and then you see something else that tends to happen when nurses go in and there's a spouse there. They tend to talk to the spouse. They shouldn't do that. They should talk to the person, especially if the person knows what they're doing. So I would just keep answering, ask my husband. Ask my husband.
Good for you.
Yeah, because, but they do that with people with wheelchairs, and I think we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. People never talk to the person in the wheelchair. They talk to the pusher.
Yeah.
Right?
Very true. My dad was in a wheelchair for 20 years.
And I'm sure you experienced that.
Yeah.
And he was perfectly fine to talk to, right?
He was perfectly fine. One of the things that he was very well adjusted about it, but one of the things that always bothered him about being in a wheelchair is he always had to look up. And so I think children may have that same experience because they're so little compared to grown-ups. And so it's just something to keep in mind, to sit in a chair next to a person in a wheelchair, so that you're on the same level, eye to eye. Something sensitive to think about when you're...
Right, that's
and with
very
kids,
important.
Don't you always, with your grandchildren, don't you always kneel down to be on their level? And it's the same thing with people in a wheelchair. They're always having to look up unless you go down to their level by, sitting on a chair next to them, not standing next to them speaking.
See that? Now you've just learned some more things today on our show from Linda Sauget, who's full of all these good things. So you had a very relaxed, I hope, a very relaxed holiday.
I had a relaxed holiday following a very crazy 10 days. My brother was in the hospital.
I didn't hear about that.
But he's fine. And
oh, my heavens.
But I was, so.
Oh, right. But so nice to have a sister who loves you that you can help, right?
Yes.
And a brother who, it's true. We think about family more and more, and that's why a lot of elder people who've lost their families, they really don't have anyone, so they have to find really good friends.
Yeah, that's why holidays are so difficult, because it's the reminder of all of the past family and activities, and as your friends die, and,
or move away,
and as children move away, and you're alone. It is a very hard thing. One of the best things to do when you're feeling low by yourself is do something for someone else.
Well, let's see. I guess I won't be on until, just before New Year's. We'll be here just New Year's Eve, I think. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that you've enjoyed the show. It's been a little unusual today, but I think it's a great thing. And thank you, Mother Natasha, for living and being who you are, and we'll always remember you. And thank you, Dr. Mencia, for taking care of my bill. And I'll see you later, too. So until next week, bye.
You've been listening to The Stars Program with